August 29th, 1952, the premiere of John Cage's 4 minutes and 33 seconds. So I know what you're asking yourself. What do John Cage and Resident Evil 4 have in common? Silence. Many video game soundtracks have music for seemingly everything. Character entrances, enemy fighting, battle themes, going down long hallways, picking up items. Resident Evil 4 doesn't do this. There are times when I was playing where all I could hear were the sound of ganados searching for Leon, exclaiming their displeasure with him. Gloria las plagas! The sound of Leon's footsteps echoing down a long hallway, or against dirt, or the subtle and sweet sound of Ashley screaming.
Oh my god, this poor voice actress.
Everything I just described isn't silence as we perceive it though, is it? When we think of silence, we think of a Mr. Beast video. How long can I stay in this sound isolation room? We assume that silence means the absence of noise, but listen. That is what the purpose of 4 minutes and 33 seconds was. Can the noise of your laundry machine, your dishwasher, fridge, or computer humming be considered music in the eyes of contemporary music?
Yes.
4 minutes and 33 seconds was created with the idea that in a modern world, silence is an impossibility. The sound of traffic has a melody, a rhythm. The noise of a plane in the distance has pitch. The sound of a Las Plagas nightmare-fueled demon popping out of the head of a Ganados as he screams at you in Spanish has a melody, a rhythm, a pitch. And what sweet, sweet music it is, isn't it? Music evolves as we do. What we perceive as music can change, and a composer like John Cage was willing to question what music is, expanding the modern thought on music as a whole. That said, music, as we would define it traditionally, is used sporadically, methodically, and very intentionally in this game. And when we hear it, boy, do we hear it. Genuinely, I was shocked when I first heard Baile de la Muerte during my fight with Ramon Salazar. The plaintive strings, the propulsive rhythm in the drums, the desperate attempt for Salazar to not allow us to get in the way of his master's plans. The music here has a profound air of sadness, tragedy, and ascension, as Salazar does everything in his power to stop us in our tracks, which in my playthrough, he was certainly successful in doing. This theme has an air of Baroque antiquity mixed with blind rage and power that adds so much to this wonderful fight. The classic save theme, a jazzy moment of peace kept mostly intact from the original Resident Evil 4. That's interesting. It's like jazz. Somehow this track manages to invoke quiet contemplation in the strings while still reminding us that the minute we walk out of that room, the danger will start back up.
What's in there?
There's a mix of guitar and strings here with alarms ringing, tremolo in the strings, and almost this quality of record scratching that gives just enough dis-ease that I'm still on edge even though I'm safe. Also, this is likely the least propulsive track of the entire game. In a quote from a Game Informer magazine interview, Kota Suzuki, the composer, said, "There's nothing like a main theme for the whole game, but to help build an atmosphere of fear, we did decide on different tones. For example, each area of the game, like the village at the beginning, for the village, when I was first making the music, I was using a hybrid approach, using things like some modern synthesizers, but the director told me it was too new sounding and asked that I try and create the feeling of an old village while aligning it with modern trends. So at the Capcom studio, we did things like play an acoustic guitar with a violin bow, or had a piano that wasn't being used brought into the studio, and used things like nails to set up what is called a prepared piano, and played that, and processed sounds of things like rocks being scraped and used those in the music tracks. We did a lot of interesting novel recordings like that. The collection of those things is how we express the essence of RE4's music. It's interesting to think that some aspects of Foley use are actually implanted into the music. Playing an acoustic guitar with a violin bow, or using rocks scraping together as musical instruments is super fascinating, but really caught me off guard is their use of prepared piano. Prepared piano actually ties back yet again to John Cage. John Cage invented it for use of his dance music in a piece called Bacchanal. Prepared piano generally doesn't always use the keyboard's black and white keys. No, it uses the strings inside the piano to produce the tones. Usually in prepared piano pieces, you throw some metal bolts, screws, or other objects within the strings that create unique and original sounds. Usually a bit disarming and kind of freaky and a little scary. These tend to end up also being alarming and uncomfortable given the right context. Then we pivot back to something like Witness the Power, Krauser's theme. A grandiose and epic choral symphonic work that would be at home in a Monster Hunter game, frankly. It's epic, exalted, and the forward momentum of the strings is ferocious, like a battle to the death, which it was for me many, many, many times. Interestingly, the soundtrack culminates with The Bullet or the Blade, a flamenco rock ballad, a super contemplative track, focusing on the present moment, never looking back, and perhaps the inner monologue of Leon's experiences both in Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4, because man, dude has seen some shit. It was a great tune to listen to when it was time to take a breath after my journey with the game. Honestly, I'm grateful I didn't crap myself. It amazes me that Resident Evil 4 could somehow connect to a contemporary composer alive in the 1950s who dramatically shifted the ideology of what music could be. And sure, some of my ideas on this might be a bit of a stretch, but are they? Really? Next time you're playing Resident Evil 4, pay attention to what you hear. You might just be surprised.